Hello and welcome to 5App's webinar on AI skills tracking in action, where you join us where we officially launch into the wild our Helix product, our AI skills intelligence platform. So thank you for joining us today. Just had verbal communication that we're all loud and clear, so let's crack on and progress with today's webinar. We've got an international audience today, helping me behind the scenes. We've got George, who heads up product marketing all the way in Cornwall. We've got Kaylee down in Brighton, who supports us with the wonderful content things that happen behind the scenes. And we've even got Luton thrown into the mix. Our head of product joins us from there. So if you can beat that, please do put your comments in the chat. I know we've got at least Guildford out there, so I'm sure we can do better from an international audience there. So let's look at the agenda today, what we're going to cover. So the first thing we're going to do is take you through the origin, the backstory. Why are we here to mark this milestone of launching Helix into the world and sharing with you the Helix product in today's webinar? We're then going to take you through the actual concept itself. So we're going to introduce what is actually Helix, what does it look like, what is it, what does it mean? We're then going to move on to the demo phase to give you a feel for what it looks like. So you know, picture paints 1,000 words there, doesn't it? So certainly give you a feel for what it looks like. And last but not least, we're going to end from a product roadmap point of view. So we're only just getting started. We are starting now. We are very much, this is the early access, the early phase of the functionality, and it's already truly powerful. So I'm excited to share with you today what it looks like. And then we'll end there on giving you a feel for how you can actually get access and have a play and see if you can start making benefit in your own day-to-day workplace setting. So with that, let's start with the origin story. So I, in my tenure, almost coming up to a year now, actually, as CEO of 5App, and goodness me, what a year it has been. In the early days, and certainly after the first few months, and I was getting under the surface of, well, what does 5App mean? I started asking the question internally and to our customer base and our partners. I want to know, why do you keep renewing with 5App? Why do you keep purchasing our technology? How do we know if our technology is any good or not? And time again, engagement came up as a statistic. And so, I was having a chat with the team here, specifically sort of James, so come tell me, what does engagement mean? Well, engagement means that multiple people are logging onto the platform multiple times a month. Okay, well, that's great. It shows that you wouldn't. The argument is that you wouldn't log in multiple times per month if you weren't getting value. But fundamentally, that only tells me that multiple people are logging in multiple times a month. It doesn't tell me that they're actually taking on board what they're learning from the learning management system, let alone applying what they're learning in the workplace, let alone what the results are. Is it actually developing a benefit to the business or yourself? And there are a number of case studies that touched upon engagement, one of which is here in front of you. Ascent. Great stats that 80% of their 420 employees are logging on multiple times a month, much better than incumbent systems that we replaced. However, as I said, that stat is that surface level stat. It's not telling me, are they actually getting value and delivering it in the workplace? So this got the cogs turning, and the more I spoke to our inner circle, we decided that, hang on a minute, we don't want to create this in a vacuum. We wanted to see, how are other L&D technology providers assessing whether or not their learning technology is good? How are other learning practitioners assessing whether or not what their service or technology or equivalent is good or not? How do they do that? And so with that, we decided to extend our audience. We decided to open up our audience and talk to a lot more L&D professionals out there. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what we heard essentially we ended up speaking to more than 100 and counting. We're still having a number of these conversations today. Mixture of HR directors, head of learning, head of people, even all the way to commercial directors, commercial managers, CEOs, MDs. We wanted to get a real breadth and depth of how businesses decide that their learning function is good, and how do businesses decide if actually the learning function is delivering value inside their business. And off the back of all of those conversations, really we ended up with three key buckets of summary to summarize those conversations of how people are assessing whether or not their learning is delivering value. And what a common one was is that a number of those we spoke to were stuck at what we call surface level metrics. So they were relying on things like quizzes to identify, is their L&D function working? So what we mean by that is a person would attend a physical course, or a person might do some online training, and at the end of that exercise they were given a quiz, and if they scored, for example, 80%, they could be said that they've passed that training program, they have retained that knowledge. But if I'm to be a devil's advocate there on that assessment, fundamentally that just tells me that that person is good at knowledge retention. Again, it doesn't tell me, or they might be better at exams, better in that pressure cooker environment. It doesn't tell me, are they actually taking what they're learning, and as I said, applying that in the workplace, using that skill in the workplace, let alone using it well, and let alone delivering value to the business. Okay, it is that surface level metric. A number of you that we spoke to were doing more advanced assessments than that. So a number of you were focusing on things like assessing behavioral change by using surveys. So a number of you, what you were doing is at the end of a training event, you would complete a survey, ask lots of different questions, some of you very detailed, to get a baseline view of where that person was. And then post the event at, say, 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, either the individual was doing a self-assessment to identify, are they using those skills in the workplace? Or alternatively, there were peer reviews happening to identify the performance of that individual or team. But really, there's a huge blind spot in that, because that's happening at points in time. As I said, it might be happening at 3 months, might be happening at 6 months, might be happening at 12 months. You've missed a huge opportunity, day 1, 2, 3, 4, day N, whereby people are demonstrating these skills, and you've missed the opportunity to assess those learning interventions. So, we've all been on the receiving end of good feedback. We've all been on the receiving end of bad feedback. I had one where I didn't actually end up speaking to my manager in the early days for almost 12 months. And at the 12-month point, they said, right, Philip, I'd really like you to do this. And I was actually really disappointed, because it was quite a simple thing to do. But I'd missed, it's like, why didn't you tell me that on day one, or the first time you seen it? It was sort of frustrating that I didn't have that intervention there. So these surveys have huge blind spots, and these are the types of things we were looking to solve. There was an appetite for real world signals. A number of you were doing more advanced things to assess the effectiveness of the learning programs. Some number of you were very creative, for example, doing things like simulation exercises, whereby you simulate the environment in the workplace during a training session, or even post a training session, just to get that sense check of, can they apply that skill in the workplace? But again, if we're to be hypercritical there, that is a simulated environment. Let alone, it's really difficult to scale and do across your organization, which means that it gets hugely costly quite quickly. So generally, you don't look to roll out simulations across the business. So we thought there must be a better way. And with that, we are proud to launch Helix to the world today officially, and we'll be giving you a demo of what that looks like later in today's webinar. As I said at the beginning, and also in the supporting information for this webinar, Helix is an AI skills intelligence platform, which essentially is looking to remove those blind spots, unlock those signals, get access to more information, so we can help you identify what skills matter, what skill application and what behavior in the workplace is performing well, and where you've potentially got opportunity to improve and really excel. So it's the unlock, and we're really proud to share with you today that unlock of skills in the workplace. So before we go into the demo, let's take a sense check and just reconfirm and go into a bit more detail over what Helix is. So Helix, there's 3 main components to Helix. So what I'll be demonstrating to you in a moment, the first piece is the raw signals. So we need to get access to information, data, if you will, to identify, are you demonstrating those skills in the workplace, in order to assess the performance of those skills, in order to assess whether or not you need support in that particular area, or give you guided support in certain areas. So what I mean by those raw signals, at launch, we are integrated with Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet. So we have access to meeting transcript data at its raw form. Then comes in our proprietary technology in the middle, what we call our 5-app 3Q engine. And this is underpinned by AI technology. And really what that is doing is assessing those raw signals, those transcripts, to build up a qualitative and quantitative picture of you as a person, to take those raw signals and ultimately get to a point in the far right there where we can give you a baseline view of how you're performing against skills in a quantitative stance. So you get a score, because scores are much easier to identify. Do I need to improve or decrease? Do I need to improve, or am I at a performance rather that I should be? And also to give you that qualitative assessment of you're performing fantastically in these areas. These are the suggested improvements. And that's where the insight comes in. And that then kicks off a whole host of activities, which we will share with you in due course. So at launch, before we go into the demo, we are starting with 9 core skills. We are going to assess 9 core soft skills, and they are separated primarily into 3 buckets there. So the first bucket, and I won't go into all of these, this is just to give you a flavor of the skills that will be available at launch. The first set of skills is really looking to assess how you show up at work. You almost like your baseline level, your baseline performance at work. So for example, there we've got accountability. So are you regularly turning up to meetings and taking ownership of tasks? Like, yep, I see that we need to do X, Y, and Z. Philip, I'm going to agree to deliver those by such and such a date, for example. And then in the subsequent meeting, are you then taking ownership whereby, actually you're communicating with everybody, yes, I delivered X, Y, and Z tasks? Or alternatively, accountability also includes their risks and issues come in. And are you able to own up and share where you might have a blocker, and therefore where you might need support from the team? So that's the first example from a measuring how you show up perspective. The second perspective there is measuring how you essentially grow and lead. Are you a leader in your team, or are you assessing whether or not are you more of a team player? So the first one there, coachability. So some of us are really good at receiving feedback, and other of us, if we're honest, hate getting feedback. Okay, I personally love it, because if anybody can give me a cheat sheet to cut a corner and identify, I'd much rather somebody told me that I can improve something than not. So hopefully I score well on the coachability as I start to use Helix. But really, as I said, this is how well you take on feedback, and then do you actually then take that feedback and then go and use that feedback from others in your interactions with them. From a coaching point of view, how much are you imparting your knowledge to the wider team? How much are you sharing those nuggets, those cheat sheets, those learnings with others? Or are you, quite quiet and fairly transactional? What is your coaching style? Do you typically look to coach people in a one-to-one environment, or do you offer more generic advice in a group setting? How do you play it? And there's lots of interesting nuggets that we identify by analyzing this particular soft skill. The last one there is how you measure your impact. And really what this is how much are you focused, how much are you using data to make decisions, and how much are you focused on the nitty-gritty, almost like the transactional tasks, as opposed to referencing the bigger picture of maybe where the business needs to go. The team sometimes laugh and tell me off here at 5app when I sort of take a pause and I say, team, are we being busy fools here? And what I mean by that is, are we so lost in all the minutiae doing loads and loads of work have we taken that sense check and made sure that everything we're doing is contributing to that overall goal that we want to achieve? In this instance, from a 5-app point of view, our Everest, if you will, our strategic vision was to launch our AI skills intelligence platform. So, in terms of that growth mindset, strategic vision, the results focused, are all our tasks contributing towards that North Star, that climbing of Everest? So there's lots more nuance to it than that, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor for the types of skills that are available at launch. And I'll touch upon this in the product roadmap later on, but we've picked these 9. These are just the 9 to get started with, because we feel that from a 5-app perspective, this gives us a breadth and depth, a really solid foundation of how a person is performing, both from a team player point of view and also from a leadership perspective. And with that, I think it's time that we go into the demo, give you a feel for what Helix looks like. So you'll have seen it on the first slide. So you had an opportunity to scan a QR code. We are now in early access. So if you want to get your camera out and scan that QR code now, you can be fastest finger and get to the top of the list, because we will be reaching out to you on an order basis by who comes in first on that early access phase, on that early access form. So if you like what you hear so far, wanting to get a feel for it, scan that QR code, open up the form, put in your details, and the team will reach out to you in due course to get you set up for what we are about to show you. So there's 3 things I'm going to show you today. The first of which is how we get access to the raw signals. Okay, and then I'm going to demonstrate from an end learner point of view the insights that they get to support their improvement from a soft skill perspective. And the final piece I'm going to show you is the admin view, the L&D manager, how they can use this information to make more strategic decisions over the performance and the effectiveness of their L&D function. So as I said, the first element I'm going to take you through is the raw signals stage. So this is a meeting that we took place. I mentioned George and Kaylee there. They're in their wonderful selves on this. And this is a meeting that took place a week or so ago. And you can see there, this is Google Meets in this particular instance, if you're not familiar with that. And you can see there that the Helix has turned up. We have that beautiful Helix that's there. And it's an AI bot. So a number of us are used to AI bots already turning up to meetings, and it operates in exactly the same way and sits there essentially supporting you throughout the meeting to get that raw signal in order to get that transcript of what Kaylee said, what Philip said, and what George said in this particular instance. And you can decide whether or not you accept Helix into the meeting. You can remove it from the meeting if you have particular sensitive information that you don't want to have. You are in complete control over what Helix assesses and what it doesn't assess. So that's the meeting. And then after the meeting, I then get this email that gets sent to me. So this was me. So it said, in that particular meeting, Philip, you consistently demonstrated strong communication and strategic vision. So that's a few for me there. As CEO, hopefully I can demonstrate strong communication and strategic vision. And then what we do is we essentially give you a sandwich, or should I say open sandwich, really, of good, and then what potentially your top rated skill rather, and then where you've got potential development opportunities that you might want to focus on. Okay, so what have I got here? So great, I scored 90% from a strategic vision point of view. I'm constantly reminding people to look at the North Star, look at where we're trying to go, make sure that everybody is contributing towards that North Star. But I do like to always, I always remember sort of the SKY methodology from a biking perspective. It's those incremental gains. So I don't want to rest on my laurels. How can I improve myself from a strategic vision point of view? So if I'm to be hypercritical in this instance, it's actually saying I might want to spend the time by saying, right, it's all well and good that you're always talking about the North Star, the climbing Everest, where we want to go, but I'm not spending enough time going, the world is not a simple, you do this and the results happen. Sometimes things come in left field to steer you off course. So I might want to spend some time making sure that we're considering the potential risks, the potential issues, the potential roadblocks, and then we're planning to mitigate against those so that if they do crop up, it's not a complete surprise. In terms of development opportunity, so the filling of the sandwich where I might want to look to improve, what it's suggested is that I maybe got an opportunity to focus on my active listening, and what it means by that is that potentially I'm spending I'm not clarifying what other people are saying in a meeting setting. So there's kind of an assumption that in that particular environment that George said something and Kaylee said something, and I'm sort of nodding and going, yeah, great, let's move on. Now, obviously, once you work with people for a number of times and the AI builds up an understanding of you, it might not be relevant in that particular instance, but certainly as you're trying to build common ground amongst your team, a good practice is to say, thank you very much in that instance, George, for saying that. I understand that you mean X, Y, and Z. Is that correct or not? Having that opportunity to revalidate and to make sure that you've got that common understanding from the team is hugely powerful. Now, this is flagged my 2 top skills. We have 9 skills at launch we're analyzing. So if I want to analyze more skills sets, I can click view analysis here. And that takes me into more of a detailed view of the platform. And we're now really starting to get into the nuts and bolts of Helix here. So in this particular instance, and what have we got here? We're looking at coachability here. So what that's suggesting that I might want to do, and that if I was to analyze that particular meeting, is that actually what I'm doing is I'm asking potentially 2 open-ended questions, like, what do you think? Right. And actually, if you read all of the leadership methodology and books, if you can be a bit more specific about to elicit responses, especially where you may have quieter members or not as confident members of the team, you're going to get better results. So rather than saying things like, what do you think? I might want to look and say things like, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? Or I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. Do you agree? It's just being that bit more specific in that particular area. And then you'll find that you get more out of the team in that particular setting. So that's analyzed that particular meeting. If we scroll up here and go back to my general profile there, what I can then start to build up is a picture of me across all of the meetings. Okay, and this is a demo site, so I currently hasn't got enough data to assess me for accountability and growth mindset. But really, what I can start to see is, well, where do I have strengths and weaknesses as me as an individual? Okay, so it's good to see that I'm achieving a lot of high scores across the board. But if I'm to be hypercritical, it now enables me to focus on, well, I've already mentioned active listening. Where else might I want to drill down into communication? I might want to look at what it's assessed there from that point of view. And I can start to build up a picture of development areas that I might want to focus on. And over time, the platform will deliver me potentially learning interventions, additional reading that I might want to look at to improve those particular areas, for example. So I've taken you through the raw signals, how we get the data. I've taken you through the learner's point of view, what the learner sees, what the information the learner gets to identify where they might have their strengths and weaknesses. And now I'm going to take you through, from an admin point of view, what an admin sees. So this is an aggregated view across the whole data across the whole of my organization. And very quickly, if I stay on the skill status bar chart at the top there, I can see that that actually snapshot across the board that we're seeing fairly high scores on accountability, active listening, strategic vision, communication, great. But instantly, the one that I potentially got room to improve there is coaching across the board. So that is one of my lower scores across an organization. Now, you might not be concerned from this as an organization, but if I was a CEO and I would want to make sure that we're adopting a train the trainer type approach, that my team is learning nuggets of information and is supporting each other to pass it on. So as I said, it might not be a concern for you, but that might be an area which you want to drill down under, see a bit more information about what's it found out by a coaching point of view. And this is where my analogy comes in of a throttle. So you might want to invest whether time or money if that skill is a concern of yours, and invest in that area. And then you might want to pull back on other areas because actually, we're pretty good from a strategic vision point of view. That's not a concern, and we're going to focus on coaching. Now, if I start to get into a bit more detail, so to start to assess the performance across my team, you have the ability to anonymize this information, so you don't see it at an individual level. You can see it at department level, or if you want to open it up, you can see it on a per person basis, which is what this demo is set up at the moment. So you can see there, we've got some gaps. So we haven't got enough data for me, for example. We've already said from an accountability point of view. But if I just, for the sake of today, let's look at the bottom one there, Zara. I can see that Zara is actually demonstrating strong active listening skills, strong communication and growth mindset, but accountability, we've got a slightly lower RAG score there. So that if we're to analyze this might be an area where we want to support Zara to improve accountability. So let's click into that, and let's go down into that. And you'll see a pattern. The patterns of UX and UI are very similar from an end learner point of view to an admin point of view, because we want to make sure that it's consistent across the whole platform. So let's drill down into accountability from a Zara perspective, and let's see what it says. So interestingly, what this is telling me for Zara is that Zara is not being focal enough, where when actions are being given across the team, is not necessarily stepping up and saying, I'm going to take X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to deliver X, Y, and Z, or where there's a potential that things haven't been delivered when they've said. Zara is not stepping up and supporting that types of conversation. So as I said, in this particular area, you may want to use the throttle analysis to send out to the team some additional information about how they might want to work on this skill, or you might want to support Zara specifically with more training in this area. If I had seen this as a CEO from an accountability point of view, I might say, well, actually, is it does Zara know that it might be a simple conversation? Does Zara know that she should potentially speak up in this particular instance? I had one in my team whereby I felt that this was a case, and actually it was just simply the right tooling wasn't in place to support the conversation. So really what it's doing is it's unlocking these, as I said, it's that unlock. It's found the signal, it's unlocked it, and it's enabled you to identify real workplace application of skills and identify where you have potential opportunity to improve. So that is the three components that I've taken you through. I've taken you through, as I said, the raw signals, how we get access to the information from Google Meets, Zoom, and Teams. I've taken you through the end learner's view of how they can get support. And then I've taken you through from an admin point of view, how we can start to unlock and identify where we've potentially got further investment needed in certain areas, and really give me a true picture of the performance of my L&D function. So where are we going next? We are just getting started. This is the first version, and we've got a rapid roadmap. Holidays are cancelled. Sorry, team. It's all right. But we've got a lot to do to really ramp this product up. But you'll see that you should get huge. If you take an early access of this platform today, in the first time of using it, the first meeting, you will start to get a real solid baseline of that mirror held up against me of where actually do I have room for improvement, or actually just giving me that confidence that, no, I thought I was good at that, I am good at that, cool, I can park that and not worry about that. So what are we looking to develop next? So I've already teased you that those core 9 are the starting point. So we're going to build out the number of skills that we are going to assess in the platform. Another thing we're going to do is we are going to link this up. And I've already seen a working prototype of this. So we're very close to doing this. We are going to link it up with our AI agent V that we rolled out earlier in the year. So you can have even more personalized learning from the feedback that has been given. So you'd be given the feedback, and then the AI agent would get given that feedback, and you can then have a conversation with the AI agent specifically about where you might need to improve, and you can even start to role play with it in certain instances. So hugely powerful. And then we fast forward beyond in terms of the roadmap, we are going to give you the ability to define what skills you want to track and how you define what is a good and bad skill. So I'm not going to give all the crown jewels away, but hopefully that gives you a flavor of this is an exciting space. We believe that this is a real game changer in the L&D sector, wider HR and people sector, and is a huge opportunity to develop real value inside your organization. So how can you get access to this particular platform? Well, we have an early access phase, and early access has kicked off. So here's the QR code again, if you missed it. As I said, fastest finger first. We will be going on order of that you complete that. If you want to get access to it, completely free trial, 1 month, no commitments, no contractual commitments, and you can get access to it straight out of the gate. You will get access to the entire platform. That we're not going to limit functionality that you get access to. You'll also have the inside seat, so you'll get notified of updates. You'll be the first to hear about what's coming next. Those of you who are particularly interested in the procurement side of things, if you do join our early access, you will get preferential rates. So you will get discounts on the list because you've been part of the journey. And therefore, we want to thank you for that. And actually, being part of something, being at the cutting edge, this is an opportunity for you to have a ringside seat, have conversations with us directly, and really drive and input what comes next. We had a London launch last week with a number of those that took part in our early feedback sessions, and it's really special, the community we're building here at 5app. What fantastic community we're building, and we only hope to make that community bigger and bigger as we go. So not to be missed. And with that, I draw to a close at the half-hour mark. I want to thank you very much for joining us today for today's webinar on to launch officially Helix, our AI skills intelligence platform. We look forward to working with you to unlock your skills in the workplace. Take care. Thank you.